He frequently does that.
From the studios at Streetsboro High School, this is the Rocket Report, Streetsboro's premier home of news and entertainment. Brought to you by Hall Team Ohio, Dean Caputo's Powerhouse Gym, and the Artistic Edge Salon.
That's a nice mic.
If you want to kill this thing, just hold it out. Just one touch, mute and unmute. Yeah. I'll leave it on mute.
Mr. Grimm, Mr. Fulton, we ready? Want to welcome everybody and to the September 8th, 2022 board meeting. And can you please call the roll, Mr. Kiffer?
Mrs. Bedford? Mrs. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Fulton?
Here.
Mr. Grimm?
Here.
Mr. Violi?
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Where do we have a flag?
Flag.
Uh-oh. Stay tuned.
Oh, we found it.
Could play the drums, color guard bringing it out.
We'll chalk that up as an ops failure. Sorry about that.
Can you like edit this part? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is that me?
Hello?
It works.
Mercury's going into retrograde tomorrow.
me.
Full moon on Saturday.
I think I killed it. We'll turn it off. See, Mr. Borgwine, that's why you don't give me those. Okay. Let's try this again. Me and Mr. Dahlball share a microphone here. Moving on to item C, public comments. We do not have anybody signed up.
Correct. No one has signed up?
Okay, and then approval of minutes. It is recommended Board of Education approve the minutes from the August 11th, 2022 as submitted.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. And moving on to superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Violi. Board, I hope everyone remembered that I'm going to be asking for a positive reflection from all of our board members and administrators up front here regarding the school year thus far. I'll go ahead and begin. My positive reflection is similar to what it was last month, but in 12 to 13 years here in the Streetsboro City School District, this is the smoothest start all around that we've had. And that's from transitions back to school in our classrooms, that's from building schedules, that's from transportation, getting our kids to and from school, even down to the dreaded car line after school over at SES that usually is a mile long. We actually had those kids loaded today before we had the buses loaded, and that wasn't due to the fact that the buses were late, because they were not. They were on time, but we have really developed an efficient operation all around. A lot of that has to do with the hard work of our staff, our building administrators, and our operations team. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for a very smooth start, and also thank you to our students and parents. Why don't we go on with Mr. Violi, you're next.
You kind of stole mine, but I'll just say I'll mimic what Mr. Dahlbaugh said, but I have a lot of gratitude this year to the employees and the staff and the administrators, because quite honestly, we heard not one comment of any problem this year, and that is not normal. So thank you all for everything.
Oh, and I
You
don't
can
need
use your
that.
own
I have one.
microphone.
In the treasurer's office, it's been an exciting time. It's always a very busy time. It seems like year-round now. It's a very exciting time because we had, I'd like to congratulate Larissa Bradford LaValle, as well as her husband Vince LaValle from the class of 2011 and the 2010 on the very positive and exciting times on the birth of their twins, Gino James and Leo Bradford, on August 6th. And the reason why I say that is that they're congrats to new mama and daddy, and also congratulations to the new grandma and grandpa, Sherry and Mark Bradford. And Sherry's been a staple in the treasurer's office for 20 plus years. So it's a lot of kiddos, and it's a positive, and it was great when she brought them over.
My turn? Proceed, Jack.
There's a lot to be positive for and grateful for in this school district. It's hard to pinpoint one, but I will say I am extremely excited and grateful and positive and pumped, Mr. Isle, for, sorry, I had to do that, for the way that this school year has started. The principal team that we have here is extremely strong, and that's helped operationally. We also are grateful that the board approved the start and stop times the way they did, which helped when we all came together to come up with a solution, and you took the advisement of us on that, and it seems to be working very well. But most importantly, the biggest thing that I'm grateful and positive for is our transportation team. They grind every single day and are really the unsung heroes of the school district. They're doing it with a very short-staffed crew, and they are making it happen and canceling as little trips and as little routes as we possibly can. Now, we all know the reality. We're a couple drivers of being sick away from having to cancel actual bus routes. We hope we don't get there. We try to work on as many different plans as we can, but they're an extremely hardworking group, and I am just happy to be a part of that team with them.
Yeah, I'm going to just mimic also what Brian and Mike said about the smooth start to the school year. All of the feedback that I've received from staff and from parents is that it was seamless and everyone was excited to be back. I kind of reflect also on what I said at the last meeting, where it's nice to have kind of a new sense of normal. We're not entering the buildings in masks with COVID. I mean, yes, it's there, but it's not looming over us like it was before. I think that is tremendous. I had the pleasure of attending the Hall of Fame induction at the football game on Friday. The facilities look amazing, and that is a testament to our staff here as well. And then I think really for me, my biggest positive was I'm a huge believer in giving back to your community. And I was very active in my alumni association when I graduated high school. And it was great to see these students at the Hall of Fame induction come back and receive their awards, and having the support of other alumni there to congratulate them. The more we can involve the alumni, the stronger our school family is. And I just think that that is tremendous that we are able to do that.
Just like to say, being a new board member, I'm very thankful to the community for talking with me as I walk around the neighborhood sometimes and throughout the plazas and that. Being retired, I have some free time every once in a while. Keeps the blood pressure down walking. And just have a very positive community, I feel, when they talk to me. And I just been very helpful to them, and hopefully them all the way around helping our students. As a community, I really like what I see out there. There's a lot of people that don't have children, that are seniors in our community, who really want to help the children of this community. And I talk to a lot of seniors when I'm walking around. So I hope that keeps on going for us.
First, all the smiles from the staff members the first few days of school, and even now, it hasn't gone away. But being out there, seeing the staff members, the administrators, out there welcoming the kids in the first few days of school, especially after summer, it was very welcoming. It was very nice to see. And again, even now, seeing all that, welcoming the kids to school because they need those friendly faces. And also all the positive cooperation between the various departments within the school district, working each day to make each school day just happen. They make it happen safely. They make it enjoyable for the students. And even the last couple of weeks, knowing that Andreas Johansson and Amanda Hall were involved with a meeting with the city and a contractor to make sure buses can get through a construction site. All the little things that are going on, preparations for tomorrow's event at the middle school. And there's just so much going on that people don't know about, but everybody's working together to make things happen. And I think that really what keeps this school district going strong, one of the things.
Mr. Grimm, thanks to all of you for the email. Again, I want to try and They say it takes 21 days to make a habit. Well, we don't have 21 board meetings this year, but I really think that we need to highlight the positive as much as possible. So that's the goal of this. So we don't have a did you know or promising practice this week. Those will resume in October. So expect one of our building administrators to be highlighting something from our building in October. So in lieu of that, I'm going to ask Mr. Isle to come up to the microphone. And on his way up, he has 2 items to report on to the board tonight. One, we are making some pretty significant changes to our report card system here in the district, and that usually starts at a primary level, and then as those kids move on, it builds. And so this is primarily a focus at our elementaries. This is something that Mr. Isle and I have been a part of in other districts. It makes sense. Board, it's not going to be unfamiliar to you when Matt talks about a new report card. And then also, Mr. Grimm kind of gave us a peek into a special event that's going on tomorrow regarding the Freedom Flag ceremony. Mr. Isle is going to talk about that as well. So, Matt?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks again for having me here at the mic.
Thank you.
Not quite as. Since I have the microphone, I'd like to say a couple things that I'm thankful for. Most importantly, I'm thankful for the kids, all of our 2,200 students, because without them, none of us would be here. Getting to serve those kids is the most important thing that we do each and every day from every area. Second day of school, little boy, first grader named Dominic. I got to bond with him during field day. At the end of the year last year, he rounded the corner out of the bathroom and he's like, "Mr. Isle, you remember me?" And I'm like, "How could I forget you, man? This is awesome." And he gave me a fist bump, and that's why we're here. I'd also like to say thanks to a recent graduate, Mike Hall Jr., for his multiple tackles and several sacks and shoring up the defensive line for The Ohio State University Saturday evening. So really excited for him as well. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the kindergarten report card that you have in front of you. You're going to have an opportunity to vote to approve that than what a traditional report card might look like. The process started just about a year ago. The kindergarten teachers approached me. Several of our kindergarten teachers have young children that are in neighboring school districts, and they were taking a look at what the report cards were coming home from them, and I had some experience in my former district with this, and they really felt that it was important to be able to properly communicate to our parents the critically important literacy and math standards that we're asking our youngest learners to be able to do successfully. So when you look at this report card, it really narrows down, to the important aspects of the science of reading that all of our teachers have been trained in. It's really, really specific, and it really drills down to what the children can do and what they are capable of doing. And it'll actually show it's more of a growth document instead of an overall grade, let's say, for reading and mathematics, because that just doesn't paint a good enough picture or tell the kind of story that we really want our parents who are partnering with us in the development of their children. So obviously the first section is the social growth and work habits. That's pretty traditional. Can they meet that standard, progress towards that standard, or do they need improvement? And then the second section is the language arts skills, and you can see that they will show growth from first quarter to second to throughout the year on how many letters they can identify, let's say, and how many sounds they can associate, how many vowels, and all of those sorts of things. So we're really excited about this. And I apologize, the second page printed upside down, and I did not realize that until I turned the page. But it's really, standards focused. It does not have overall grades for mathematics, like a traditional report card would be, because what does an overall grade in math mean to a kindergartner or to a kindergartner's parent? So we are really excited about this. The idea is to roll it out in kindergarten this year. We've started working with the first and second grade teams second semester last year. We decided to train up our parents in this kindergarten report card and then roll out another standards-based report card for first and second grade as we move forward. as those kids move up the grades, and then start giving traditional grades starting in third grade, where it's more developmentally appropriate to be able to grade with percentages and put the math behind it is in a traditional grading program. So, do you have any questions for me regarding this? Like I said, it's nothing new. It might be a little bit new, but I remember Mr. Dalbaugh and I talking about this years ago. It's based on Marzano's research, and I think it's time. The standards are intense enough, and what we're trying to accomplish with our youngest learners, it's important that we communicate that appropriately to our parents.
Educator and as a father, this makes more sense to me. I was an elementary teacher, I was an elementary principal, and both of my daughters went through multi-age programs in Minerva where they had for the first 4 years standards-based report cards. And so for me as a father, I didn't know what an A in a math meant, but this tells you exactly where they're at, where they need some work, and where as a parent I can focus my work at home with my kids, whether it be language arts, reading, math, social studies, or science. This is going to be a bit of a change for some of our parents, especially parents that have kindergartners who also have kids in older grades, because we're kind of used to that A, B, C, D, F. We're hoping that this parents find this a useful tool in kindergarten. That way, again, because the overall goal is what can our kids do, what should we expect them to do, and what skills can we work on them at home with. So I appreciate the kindergarten team and your work on this, and I'm excited to see how this progresses at grades 1 and 2. And then typically that 2 to 3, I don't even know what your plan is, but that's when you start to see kind of a combination of grades and standards-based reporting, because the kids will be getting grades in your upper, your intermediate and middle school and high school grades. So there has to be a transition from standards-based to standards-based in grades to grades. But I hope that our moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas of our youngest students, this will give them better information than what we have in the past. So nice job.
Thanks. And I do want to say, the kindergarten team approached me about it, and I said, yes, we absolutely, let's do it. This is not a top-down process. This was definitely built and designed and talked about in lots of TBT meetings last year. I have to give a huge shout out to Rita Kroger, our literacy coach, and Brittany Belviso, our mathematics coach at the elementary level. They were instrumental in helping to refine those essential standards that are found on this document. Ashley Gert, our former assistant principal at the elementary school, she also had a huge hand in this as well. So a lot of people worked on this document, and I'm excited that it's going to be good for our kiddos, and it's going to be good for our parents. Well, the teachers have talked about it at the opening night. The big plan is that they've been communicating what these standards are. They're going to roll out the Q1 report card to the parents during the first conference night, which is going to be in November, about a week after the quarter is over. And they're going to spend that first conference on a one-to-one meeting, and those are very well attended by our kindergarten families, especially. And that's when the big rollout is going to be. Hopefully all of our parents are watching tonight, because there's nothing better to do on a Thursday night with Thursday night football starting. But there we are.
Is this going to be posted on our website anywhere?
It possibly could. I have not really thought that far down. That's a good suggestion if that's what you're suggesting, and I think we might be able to.
If I was a parent of a kindergartner, I would want to know what I should be working with them on right away.
If anything, the website seems to be more of a depository for people to go for important things, but I know, again, a huge shout out. Another thing that I'm very thankful for is Miss Abraham's weekly updates to parents. She sends out a really nice newsletter. That might be another vehicle that we can use to help communicate that after the vote this evening.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that would be the best avenue, because we know every parent should receive that.
Right.
As opposed to going to the website.
Right. Those are all good suggestions. Thank you. While I have the mic, there's another really cool thing that I'd like to share with all of you. It's going to be happening tomorrow. I sent you an email earlier today. Kyle, do you mind spending those 9 calendar days ago, and remember we had a long 3-day weekend in the middle of there, we learned about an opportunity being able to partner with the Freedom Flag Foundation through our contact through one of the American Legion groups, through Mr. Grimm. We have the opportunity tomorrow morning to honor those who have fallen in the name of service on the events of September 11th, 2001. Sunday is Patriots Day. And basically, the Freedom Flag Foundation, they created a flag. It looks similar to an American flag, but it's very representative. It really pulls out a lot of elements to commemorate the events, those horrific events that happened 21 years ago. So, Ms. Taylor and I and a few other people from her staff, we had a chance to meet with the president of the Freedom Flag Foundation last Thursday. He overnighted us a teaching packet complete with a section of steel from Tower Number 1 that our students are going to be able to gauge in, several books that have been written, and a freedom flag that we're going to fly at half-mast beneath the American flag tomorrow. And we're going to leave that on display for the entire weekend over the Patriots Day, which is on Sunday. We picked 8th grade because 8th grade is studying American history, so they're going to be using these teaching materials next week after that, because it's so important that we help kids connect, history, make history come alive. And unfortunately for me, I was teaching at the time. I had 2 young children, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember exactly what was happening. I learned that our principal, Ms. Taylor, she was sitting in a 7th grade classroom as a 7th grader, so that makes me feel really, really old about this 21 years ago. Julie, too much fun. But we're really, it feels like, because we threw a lot of things together, but wow, I hope that you might be able to stop by the middle school tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Julie and her team, the maintenance department, Mr. Wepler, they've all been really pulling this together, and I think it's going to be a really nice event to kick off a very important weekend. I know that Mr. Grimm's doing something, for the community on Sunday, at the fire station, but, Mr. Grimm's bringing, several of his colleagues, complete with fire trucks, to the event tomorrow as well. So it's not something that I really say that I'd like to celebrate. It's not anything to celebrate. It's a very sad part of our time, but I hope that by doing this, a few of our students will have the opportunity to engage with their parents at the dinner table Friday night or Sunday about what really was going on back then, and perhaps those horrific events. Hopefully people will remember that for quite a bit of time after that, 21 years ago, we as Americans came together. We really came together. And if that's a message that we need to hear loud and clear in today, in 2022, I think that's really important that we put forth this extra effort. So looking forward to it. I can't wait for tomorrow because we get to do some things that are out of the ordinary that are pretty normal feeling, once again, coming from the pandemic. So again, a huge shout out to Ms. Taylor and her team. When I threw this at her, I'm like, hey, I think we should do it at 8th grade. She's like, right on, let's do it at 8th grade. And I could tell she was pumped for it. So there it is. That's all that I have in my report. Thank you, everyone.
Talking about, this is a pretty big honor that our school is going to have to fly the freedom flag. A very limited number of schools around Ohio.
I completely forgot that part of my speech. I didn't write it down.
Been involved with this, so it is really actually a prestigious honor that our middle school was asked and ultimately chosen to be a part of this Freedom Flag Foundation presentation program to honor the 9/11 events at 9/11. And folks in the audience, I don't know if you saw the card that Matt or Kyle, our treasurer, passed out, but the freedom flag is pretty symbolic. Probably from a distance, it looks like an American flag, but there's small stripes, large stripes, and then they jump between white and red, and then there's blue. And every single portion of that flag commemorates 9/11, from the Pentagon to the field in Pennsylvania where the flight went down, to the Twin Towers, as well as our first responders that I responded that day. Then as Matt was talking about the blue, uniting all Americans. And so this card, if anyone wants to see it when we're done at the board meeting, I'll have mine that you want to just take a quick peek at it. And I don't know if we're allowed to publish this on the website or not, but if we are, I think this is something that I may either put in my newsletter to parents tomorrow, because
Yes.
I think this is a really cool graphic and has a lot of meaning behind the foundation, and it's a nonprofit. And so for I believe one calendar year, we get to fly the freedom flag.
The freedom flag can be flown the day of Patriots Day.
It's just the day, okay.
For the
But
day.
we are one of few schools in Ohio.
We're the second school in Ohio to be
Gotcha.
chosen for this. The goal of the foundation is to make this a national symbol of Patriots Day. It has been flown in all 50 states. They have petitioned our state legislators to have it flown over our state house for this school year, for this year. And their goal is to make that happen for Sunday, but it probably won't happen until next year. Yeah, it's pretty neat how it landed in our lap, and we just could not resist jumping at the chance to do this for our kids. And every one of our 8th graders are going to come home with one of these postcards to commemorate it. The freedomflagfoundation.org is their website. It's really good. And the gentleman, the president of the foundation, his best friend and best man in his wedding was on the 31st floor when it collapsed. So this is his life's mission. He lives in Virginia, and it's very powerful.
And it's interesting because I think with 9/11, there is someone, not the children obviously of today, but one of their family members who was alive during the time that it happened, someone has a connection to that event, whether it be they were a service person. I know my husband's company sent people in to restore cell tower service after that happened. I mean, they were on ground zero when the cleanup was happening. Someone knows someone who was impacted and affected by this. And it's so important to not lose that along the way.
Right.
Because it is a time that our country came together.
Right. So, again, great opportunity for our students and community here. So,
Real quick, I don't see why there's any reason why we couldn't put this information on the website. And I think if you had to ask someone, can you put it on? I'd rather ask for forgiveness if we can't. So please put it on.
great. Very good. Anything else, Mr. Dalbaugh? No. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, and then finally, board, you're going to see under, I believe, the consent agenda items. Let me check that to make sure. Yes, under consent agenda items, an MOU with our certified union for a WSTB assistant station manager. This was something that Bob approached me about, I think it was back in June, and he and I worked on it this summer. The union was very gracious to allow us to add another classification. Bob requested this because I think I applaud Bob for his forward thinking and planning. Someday Bob probably wants to retire and maybe see the world or whatever Bob wants to do. And knowing that Bob has been involved with our radio station, I want to say, has it been 40 years, Bob? For over 40 years, when it's time to pass the torch, that's a lot of institutional knowledge that will just be gone. And so we want Bob to be able to enjoy his retirement, not retire and then come back every day. So he said, Mike, why don't we create an assistant station manager job? Now, does that mean that that person is going to be the automatic person to get that station manager's job when Bob retires? No, it doesn't. But what it's going to start doing is allowing Bob to impart some of his years of experience on someone else, so someone shares the knowledge of the radio station, how it works, who our systems engineer is, what happens when there is a citywide emergency and they take over the channel, all those pieces that maybe Bob only knows, or maybe a few of us here on stage, Mr. Grimm, because he's a very big part of that from the emergency management side of things, or myself because I'm the district superintendent. But there are things I would bet that I know that Kevin knows that maybe you guys don't know, and that only Bob knows. And so it's time to start educating someone. So we came up with an MOU, so you'll vote on that later. We also came up with the job description. You'll vote on that later. But this, again, is to try and build some capacity in this program so that we'll be able to pass the torch at some point. And Bob, you can't retire until I do, so we'll have to wait. But I don't know if any of you have any of those questions.
No, I think it's a great idea. I also encourage that person to maybe start keeping a notebook or creating SOPs, standard operating procedures for whatever happens in that station. I'm not sure if that's already there, but it would be a good thing for that person to keep a notebook. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Treasurer's report. This should be good.
Are we taking bets on how long this lasts?
Oh, my gosh.
You know, when CJ was the treasurer,
It was about 2 minutes last time. Funny, funny.
you know we love you.
Waiting.
I think your machine's off.
Oh, just the lights were on. Shouldn't take too long. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a picture of me in Las Vegas.
Can we get one of those?
Yeah, sorry. It's a picture of me in Vegas. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
That's amazing.
I didn't
not
mean
yet.
to put this picture up. I'm
It's
sorry.
amazing, though.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I picture me in Vegas. I'm sorry. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I had to hold it for a month because I had it last month and I forgot. All right. Long story short for today's treasurer update, I apologize. You will not be receiving one update for August. We're not closed yet for August. This was a quick board meeting in terms of where the calendar was. I'm just waiting for Mr. Viola to stop laughing. I did want to mention is that when some things are different in my reports or different than in the past, I'll bring it up to the board. So you'll see an ESC contract to be approved. And this is a contract for our team members. So we have, I think, 8 or 7 team members that are part of our staff. They're still Rockets, but they're just employed through the ESC. And we pay the ESC, and so in terms of a forecast or expenditures, if I ever talk about the purchase services, the ESC is a purchase service. So we're purchasing the services of their employees that are also our employees as well. So long story short with that is that sometimes when it comes to billing, when it comes to cash flow, invoices come in periodically. It could be a month here, a big chunk here, a big chunk here. And one of my goals is to try to get expenses consistent throughout the year. So it's pretty, I'm excited for it. I'm pumped because I contacted the ESC, and the ESC through our foundation payments, we are able to pay our foundation payments to the ESC. So we're not waiting for 2-3 months for it to be approvals and lost in translation sometimes, interoffice mail. They're just going to take it from our foundation, so the ESC is happy because they get consistent payment, and we're happy because we have consistent expenditures that I can report to the board. So that's the contract you'll be approving today from the ESC. That's my report today. Let's go back to the great picture.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's a serious question.
Yes.
How do we get one of those?
That concludes my treasurer's report.
Thanks, Kyle.
Kyle.
Really appreciate that lead-in.
Thank you, Mr. Kiffer. How are you gonna top that one, CJ? Moving on to Chief Business Officer's report.
Well, we're just going to lead right in with the digital sign update. Thank you, Kyle. So I spoke with John today at City Hall, and he did give me an update on where they are at with digital sign legislation. So currently, there is no definitive timeline. They are at the end of what needs to be done before it goes to the Planning Commission, is what he shared with me. He's felt that they're about a month to a month and a half out before it goes to planning. And then once it's in planning, it's going to need 3 readings from council before approval. So that is where we're at on the digital sign front.
Dead.
We did have a conversation just in general, like when you have an idea of what you think is potentially going to be the schematics of the sign, like could we maybe get an idea of that? Because, you know, if our sign doesn't fit that mold, we're going to need to make some adjustments, or maybe if our sign is out of date and isn't functioning the way it should have, then we need to make adjustments. So
Could,
Carmelo was 5 years ago.
you know I got to talk about this, right? So I can't even remember when the commitment was made that I would discuss it every meeting until we got something out there, right?
Been a while.
Kevin, at least all of last year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Could we approach the city and ask them for a conditional approval of the sign that we have until that is done?
If you would
until
like
they've
me to-
completed what they need to complete.
If you would like me to ask that question, I could be more than happy
I
to
think
ask
it-
that question.
I think it's time to ask that question.
Okay.
And it's, I mean, I know a lot of people kind of kid around about the conversation over this, but Wyndham has a sign, Aurora has signs, Manaway has signs, Ravenna, Rootstown. Every school district in Portage County has a sign at their schools. It's time. Ask them if they could please give us a conditional approval until they get their zoning thing put in, and if we have to change it, we'll change it.
Okay.
Well, and two, when we purchased the sign, we were told at that time, and granted, things happen, but we were told at that time that there would be a sign ordinance in place so that we could put that sign up, and it's sitting there and collecting dust and probably not working.
It's an outdated sign at this point.
So, I mean, maybe our best option is try to get rid of it and get some money and replace it with a new modern sign as soon as we can.
We're not going to know until the time comes and we actually go down there to hook it up if it's going to function properly, if everything's in working condition at the street. Because now you're talking 5 years of that hardware sitting there, getting potentially rained on and deteriorated with nothing connected to it. So, you know, it might be a little bit of time before we can get a sign up, just to prepare everyone, depending on when we get knowledge of the sign, what the sign schematics are, and when we find out is functioning or not. So I just want to make sure we all are aware of that, so we're not expecting like ordinance passed and then the
Right.
sign tomorrow.
But we do have the sign on the premises, right?
We do have the sign
And
currently, yes.
We have actually seen it.
We have seen
lit
it
up.
light up, but we haven't seen it down there
Right.
light up. So
Could we, I don't know how much work that would take to, you know, to see if it can be connected down there, but could we possibly do something like that, at least to try it, to see if it does work still?
we can see, I
I-
don't know if that means we have to remove the sign
Yeah, because
that's
we'd
already
have to
down there.
remove the current sign that's there. So with that, the current sign that's out at the road is basically a piece that was put into place in replace of the digital sign and all the data cable. So there's a data cable and electric cable in there. So that sign would have to be removed, physically removed in order to access that. So it would be a little more than just an easy job to just take it down there and plug it in. It would take removing the other sign, the insert in there that says SHS with the rocket on it. So that would not, I would have to ask Mr. Clark, Dave Clark, but if you told me to make my best guess, I would say that current sign down at the street probably cannot come out until we're ready to put a new sign in, and then the new sign will go there.
I would
But
agree.
there is a data cable out there already.
We plan on putting it out there and then just put a sheet of vinyl over top of it with this stagnant, I mean, is that a possibility so that when they decide that we're okay to put it out there, you can peel it off? I mean,
Maybe. I'm not sure. We'd have to ask the city those questions.
let's ask the city first for conditional approval first, see if they can do that.
Well, I'll see the mayor tomorrow, so I can ask him about that tomorrow.
And I just want to add, I know that we joke about it, but we are very appreciative of what the city has done to try and move this forward and get it through the process. So I want to make sure that we,
John was
Absolutely.
extremely
that.
helpful today
Yes.
when I talked to him, and he
and we appreciate it. And
he
it-
gave me
I
a
mean,
lot of information. So,
Okay, good.
Thank you.
okay. Moving on. Thanks again, Kyle, for that. Appreciate it. Gardner Design and Build. So this evening there are 3 recommendations that I'll be making on Gardner and using the Design and Build resolution for that through the Ohio Schools Council. It is for HVAC repairs to SHS, SMS, and SES, all using the 034 facilities funds because those are assets on that list, and that is what that fund is there to utilize. We had Gardner come out and do their thing. They're our service provider, so their annual inspections, cleanings, everything like that. We also have had GPD in and out of all of our buildings. They'll be here next month to talk about that. Both of them took a look at our HVAC systems, and both of them agreed that they are not functioning the way they need to be in terms of getting the most out of what's in there. There are bad compressors in some. There are fans not working. I know the high school's only running off of 1 chiller, and I'm not quite sure how long it's been like that for. So we are working through that with them, and I know that's not the answer that you want to hear, but I'm always going to be transparent and honest. And so I asked to check all warranty work. I checked against all the warranty work. And I had Gardner check against the warranty work, GPD. I reached out to Joe Swantek at Hammond Construction. This has been about a 3-month ordeal where I've had these quotes sitting here waiting to do something with them. And I checked every avenue. I asked GPD and Gardner to see if they can tell me why we have these issues. They really couldn't. They said it could be a variety of reasons. It could be because of electrical outages happening frequently and things not being shut down properly and creating immediate issues in the system, and especially if like the outage happens when people are sleeping and then we come in the morning to it and that not being tended to immediately. They said it could also be from faulty equipment installed or it not installed properly. I asked if preventative maintenance was part of the issue as well. They assured me that preventative maintenance has been being done, and you can tell. The only thing that I was told about preventative maintenance was that the high school coils needed to be cleaned, and it just so happened that we were about a week out from Gardner coming out to do that because that's part of their service contract. So we explored every opportunity to try to do warranty work or whatnot. What I can tell you is Gardner has been a good partner thus far to the school district. They've been open and honest, and they've been helping us keep everything running accordingly until we got to the bottom of this. So I feel comfortable making these recommendations to the board based off of all the research that my team has done into this matter, and we're hoping that we get it fixed and it's fixed. But for some reason, there just tends to always be HVAC issues going on here, and I'm hoping that GPD can also help us with some of that.
Is this part of the monitoring package that they have?
So no. So that'll be a different conversation down the line. This is just part of our service agreement with Gardner. Like, they are the service provider for us, in terms of regular maintenance, regular inspection. When we have an issue, they come out and fix it for us. These are on the agenda because they're bigger fixes, and you guys needed to know about them. We are exploring the shared services. We actually just had a meeting yesterday, Andreas and myself, with Kevin from Gardner. The issue with that, Mr. Violi, is these systems in all of the new buildings and DEFR were proprietary software, meaning it was a trained software. It was a Honeywell software at Henry DEFR. It is not an open system. So for Gardner to get into the system and to have their sensors report back, it's almost impossible. And we don't have an extra $300,000 laying around to put Niagara systems in all of the buildings, which is what we put in at DEFR over the summer. That's about a $100,000 system. Niagara is an open system, and I was adamant that it was not going to be proprietary in any building that we did a master control to, because I don't want us to be locked into only Train or only Gardner. I want to be able to go to whoever the best service provider is going to be for our school district. So I told Gardner to find us that product, and they feel comfortable with Niagara, and Niagara is an open source product, so anybody can come in and control that. So Henry DEFR will have the ability in about a month to go under some sort of shared service agreement. The alternative, and I don't want to go off too much on the side about this because we're not there yet, would be we contact Train, and there is a certain software package that we may be able to purchase from Train that would then give Gardner access to that control and that proprietary software. And the cost could be around $4,000 a year, but then that would put us into that monitoring agreement, which we very much would like to be a part of. So we're in the exploratory phase of that right now, because the price tag for Niagara for all the buildings is probably going to be somewhere between $125,000 to $225,000 investment.
I understand what the monitoring is that they do. I'm not sure if everybody else does. Is there any way you can just give a very short clip
Sure.
as to what
So-
that means?
So what they would do is they'd put sensors all over the place, on dampers, on air handlers, on all kinds of things. And they have a 24-hour, 365 data center at Gardner that all of that information reports back to. They also control the system then. So it takes the control out of our level 4 custodians from doing it, which I'm sure they would welcome, and they have set points that they set things at. It makes us more efficient and effective from an Energy Star rating. So I think right now we're probably operating at like a, let's just say a 40 Energy Star rating. 75 is where you want to be. So we could get to 75 working with them on some of these projects. And there's some cool things that we can do in terms of rebate with C-Power that will actually bring revenue in. It's not even a savings. Like C-Power will just cut us a check, because if we bring our energy load down during peak times and they need it during like an event, say something big is going on, we can then receive a reward for doing so. And they're pretty significant. So moral of the story, Gardner would then be able to see like, okay, air handler 5 isn't functioning properly. It could be this chiller. This is a bad sensor. We need to get out and fix it immediately so we don't have larger problems. It's worth it, no doubt about it. Excuse me. It's just a matter of getting there, that initial investment. So we're going to contact Train and see if there's a way that we can get that and go that road. But for now, we've made the investment in these buildings. We need to fix these systems before something bad goes awry. And it's my job to make sure we're doing that. So given the homework that we've done, we need to get this fixed. And so this is what it is. And that's why we have the funds there. We run huge commercial buildings every single day. And anybody that has any knowledge of huge commercial buildings, there's always HVAC issues going on in those buildings, because you have people, doors opening. It's not like at home where you like set it to 60 and go to bed, or whatever temperature you like to sleep at. Like, it's not like that here. So
I just think that if we can get to the point of them monitoring things for us, it would make everyone's jobs a lot easier here, and probably save us money in the long run.
it will.
Because any type of HVAC problem you do have in a building, it's usually a domino effect. This part goes bad, so this one starts overworking and it goes bad, and then you have,
Yep.
it's just,
And my
Love
job
to
is to
see
make
that.
sure we're efficient and effective. And
Yep.
so when we explored this with Gardner years ago, when I was sitting in the CFO seat, the issue was there was no alternative method other than a $400,000 investment to the Niagara system, and that could not be justified at the time.
if we can get the other one, that'd be great.
So we have looked for alternatives, and I've challenged them to look for alternatives, but I also didn't want to be the test dummy for the alternative. So Case Western Reserve has been running this now for a few months, and it seems to be doing the job. So we will see. Time will tell.
Are there state funds that we can use grant money-wise that would help pay for these types of services?
So as far as like HVAC services in
Yeah,
general,
anything like this?
not really.
Okay.
We partner with the Ohio Schools Council,
Correct.
and they bid out to all these HVAC vendors to try and get the most competitive pricing
it.
possible. It helps the district because it streamlines the process more. Whereas this would have been probably a 4-month process
Sure.
to get to this point. The only reason it's longer than like 2 days and board approval was because I wanted to make sure we did all of our homework
Yep.
prior. So, part of ESSER funding was to improve air quality and things like that, but we had other needs for those funds.
Understood, yep.
Occasionally, you might see a grant, like when COVID was going on, there were some small ones, but nothing on the large scale.
Understood.
Typically, what happens, like Gardner would be willing to make an investment in us like that with a commitment of like 5 years of these services, which isn't a bad thing, but the savings generated from it wouldn't make their investment whole.
Yep.
So like that shared service as far as like, let's just say the number's $25,000 a year for that intelligence services. And we save $60,000 a year in energy savings based off our baseline. $30,000 typically is just back to the school. It's not a check, it's just we saved that much.
Correct.
We would then cut Gardner a $30,000 check because
Yes.
we saved it. So we're saving 30 grand regardless
Okay.
in those types of terms. When you look at what the investment would have to be to go into the Niagara system, it doesn't pay off even if we gave them the whole savings over the 5-year period. Then we wouldn't have to make any investment.
Got it.
So it didn't make sense to go that route. And quite honestly, like we just went through that project at DEFRA and they did a fantastic job with it. They're waiting for some sensors right now to come in to finish it. But the equipment in these buildings are fairly new when it comes
Yeah.
to those master controls. So it really wouldn't be doing our community a good service just for that. So that's why I wanted to see an alternative. And it sounds like if Train will sell us this software, we'll be able to do that. And if they won't, I think legally they have to, so we may have to go down a different path. But
Got it.
we'll have to explore that.
Thank
So
you.
tonight I'll be asking for approval for those so we can get our systems functioning properly. Any questions about that? Any more on the shared services? Okay.
I'd like to add, if it's okay. I'd like to add that these are coming from Fund 034, which is the Classroom Facilities Fund, which through the OFCC project a number of years ago, the district does transfer from PI to that every November, and that's for assets like this, like what happened. So we do have the funding for it. It's not coming out of any salaries or benefits, but it is on the approved asset list that we have for that fund.
And I specify that in my recommendation, that it will be pulled from 034 funds. Kyle and I work well together in those regards when it comes to where we're going to pull the funding from to make the most impact. Come on, Mrs. Bedford. I think she can come up. Can she come up? Yep.
Absolutely.
So nice of you to join us.
628.
So as Mrs. Bedford's coming up, the next item that I have on here I think is long overdue. It is rental pricing, and we need some structure when it comes to that. We don't have it, and I wanted to build it. So what I did was I went and seeked out places that I felt had good structure when it came to their rental pricing and how they did it and what I thought would work best for this community. So I'll be asking you to approve that this evening, and just high level, what that looks like. There's like Class A fees and Class B fees. Class A fees is just labor cost. That is no different than what we're doing right now for all of our various groups. You know, anytime that we have Parks and Recs in the building, or Streetsboro Youth Football, or any PTA, anything like that, if it is during a time where we don't have a custodian, like a weekend, let's say, the only charge is the overtime cost. If it is during a time when we have a custodian in the evening, there's no cost. We don't charge anything because the custodian's already there. So that would be like our Class A fees, and it would be those support groups. And we already know who those groups are, and so we have identified them. In the future, what I think we should do is ask those groups to apply for those Class A fees free of charge, and then the board approve who those support organizations are, so that we know these are the Class A fees for the year. We're not there yet, but I think we get there. So that won't change for any of those groups out there. So anybody out there that's panicking right now about that, it will be the same exact process it's always been, only labor costs. And it's only labor costs when we don't actively have a custodian in the building. So if you're here on a Tuesday night, we have a custodian in the building on a Tuesday night, there is no charge for that. But if you're here on a Saturday, we have to recover the cost of the custodian. So there's the charge for that. There's also tech manager fees if you're using auditorium. And then I have police fees down here as well in case they need an officer, and we have to get that for them. Now, Class B fees is a completely different ballgame. Those are for our for-profit entities that are coming in here asking to utilize our wonderful facilities. And again, I do not have any athletic fields on here when it comes to baseball diamonds, football field. That's a separate item that the board has already approved, and that is what we utilize as our Bible for that. Like, we follow that to a T. So that is not changing. This is only for gym times at the middle school, at the elementary schools, and then auditoriums and classrooms and things of that nature. So what we have here in those fee structures is similar to what you approved last year for Lisa School of Dance, and I told you that this would be on the horizon. I wanted to see how that worked out, and it worked out well. So there's an hourly rate just for renting an area, and then we have a small fee for utilities because utilities are being utilized, and we need to recoup parts of that, and then any labor costs. So if a custodian needs to be here, if 2 custodians need to be here, that needs to be rolled into that. We already have the frame of an agreement, a shell of a legal agreement that exactly how Lisa School of Dance is, that Kyle worked very hard on getting. We utilize that shell, and then we put the pricing structure in that shell, and then it goes out to the vendor. And when the vendor receives that, then they can agree or not, and they have to sign. And then we put it up for board approval as well. So the fees that you see here are very competitive to area districts around us and to just rentals in general, based off the research that my team and I have done. So that's why it took so long for us to get this pricing out, because we wanted to make sure that we had it competitively priced, but also getting fair return for the investment that our community members have made for the great facilities that we have. So we have classroom fees, cafeteria fees, commons fees, auditorium fees, things like that. There is a portion in there about excess cost, basically meaning if an organization comes in here and destroys our facility, they're going to pay for that. If it takes extra time to clean, if they break something, that's in the contract, because we need to protect our assets as well. So we're going to be asking for approval of that this year, and I will be asking approval of that every year that I'm here, because fees may change. And then we will post that, advertise that. You know, I've had a dance company, a national company, ask me like 4 times now for dates, and I haven't allowed them anything yet, because I want to make sure we have this in place prior to anything. So it gives us structure. Elena Links, it gives her something to go off of, because she really is the person that deals with the majority of our rentals, and she does an excellent job, but she also needs to know, like, here's my pricing, we don't need to wait on anything, I have it, and we can just operate. So I don't know if there's any questions about that, but I think it's going to benefit the district greatly to have something like this.
I'll just say well done. I mean, looks simple to me.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, Mike, I'm not sure, are you going to talk about your approval part when it comes to that? Okay, so then I'm going to be done with my report, Mr. Violi.
Thank you, Mr. Scarpino. Moving on to board reports. Mrs. Bedford, do you have a report?
Do you want your printout? Do you want it? Stand by.
Gotcha.
Just in case. I wrote notes on the back, so don't give it away.
You're gonna dance or something.
I know, right?
Am I on? Are we good? Yep, we're good.
Good on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have the athletic department one. So we did have the Athletic Hall of Fame induction, so I know many of you were there. And it looked like a beautiful event and that we held here. So thank you to everyone, Mr. TV-Paw, that held that. It looks like on here, let me name some names. We had former head coach, and I'm sorry about the names, I'll tell you right now. Tom, the track coach, anyone want to help me? Bessemeyer, there we go. Bill Smerglia for volleyball was inducted. Alex Todd, Dorian Williams, Jacqueline Hess, and Wayne Chappell. So congratulations to them. I saw the pictures and it looked like it was a great event. The girls volleyball team continues to have success with a record of 5-4. Of course, our football team defeated Struthers Friday night. Congratulations to them and what seemed to be a pretty awesome game. I missed it, but it seemed to be pretty exciting. The boys golf team is now 5-5 overall and 5-2 in the MAC. And the girls golf team is 12-2 overall and 5-2 in conference. The boys soccer team is 0-4-1, while the girls team is 4-1 overall and 3 in conference. The cross-country team is doing well. Looks like we have some former regional qualifiers. Senior Zach Bales is having an outstanding year, so congratulations to him. And he was also selected as the Athlete of the Week by the Record Courier. And then, let me see, lastly, after nearly 3-year hiatus due to COVID, the Captain's Council will resume conducting community outreach projects soon, so that's great. And on Thursday, November 17th, they will be serving lunch for the homeless. Sorry, let me see where I'm at on here. Our Captain's Council is scheduled to play chair volleyball in Streetsboro High School on Wednesday, October 19th at 1:30 with the senior citizens from the Streetsboro Senior Center. And on Thursday, they're scheduled to be serving lunch. I guess, November 17th, they're scheduled to be serving lunch to the homeless at Kent State, the Kent Social Services. So good stuff.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Mrs. Bedford. Mrs. Campbell?
I have no report.
Mr. Fulton?
Okay, thank you. From the Ohio School Boards Association, the recently enacted House Bill 110 contained an amendment to Ohio Revised Code 2915.092, which appears to remove a school district's ability to conduct raffles. Specifically, the bill removed the term public schools from the list of entities that are authorized to conduct charitable raffles. The provision now authorizes entities that are exempt from federal income taxes under 26 United States Code 510A to conduct raffles, which does not encompass public school districts. While it is unclear if the change was intentional, we are recommending that school districts refrain from conducting raffles until there are further changes in the law. Most booster groups and support organizations, however, remain authorized to conduct raffles and donate proceeds to schools.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Mr. Grimm?
Thank you. A few things. The agendas for next week's city council meetings were sent to all of you by email. This Sunday, September 11th, is the fire department's annual 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. This will be held at our memorial in front of the fire station. Parking will be available in the former City Hall parking lots, and our ceremony starts just before 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. At the end of the ceremony, taps will be played, as we have for several years, by Streetsboro High School band members. This year's trumpeters are Tyler Paul and Elizabeth Slaughter. Saturday, September 17th, as part of the bicentennial celebration, there will be a historical Blast 5K run, which also starts near the fire station at 9 a.m. You can contact Parks and Rec for more information on that. From 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the same day, there will be a community cookout in the field across from the fire station, followed by a community picture and burial of the new time capsule. From the band, the 8th graders are hard at work preparing for their first performance September 16th at the Rockets home football game. 7th grade is perfecting their knowledge of key signatures and scales, and 6th grade is learning to play as a whole ensemble and develop their fundamental skills. The high school band performs at the Medina Band Show this Saturday at 7 p.m. at Medina High School Stadium. Next Saturday, September 17th, is the first ever Streetsboro band show. The Borough Band Bash will begin at 7 p.m. September 17th. Tickets for the event can be purchased online for $10 at band.scsrockets.org, or you can purchase them at the gate for $15. Either way, it goes to support the band. And on September 24th, the band travels to Aurora High School to perform in their Thunder Over Aurora band show, which starts at 7 p.m. And finally, the band boosters meeting, they're always looking for help, is at Streetsboro High School this coming Monday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. And for me, I have just a couple notes on Maplewood. I sent everybody the notes from last meeting. Maplewood did complete their facade remodel. I don't know if you've been over there to take a look at it, but it looks amazing. They did a really nice job on the outside of the building. Kind of, if you were to walk through that building, I don't think you really would know how old it is. It looks very modern, and the building just looks fantastic inside and out. But the outside facade, I think they did an incredible job on it. So take a look at it when you get there. And then I will also let everybody know when the Maplewood Maple Leaf restaurant opens up, so that we can plan on getting out there and supporting the kids. But it's always a good time to go out there for lunch, very inexpensive, and the food is amazing. You can just ask Andreas and CJ. They frequent there pretty regularly, so we appreciate them coming out there. And that's all I have for the report. And we'll move on to the consent agenda. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items B through T.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Comments? I'm going to call out the donations. There's quite a few on here, so I just want to mention a few. I'm going to mention all their names. You got Sergeant Clean Car Wash donated $7,700 to the Educational Foundation. My First School from Aurora donated. St. Joan of Arc donated. AT&T Benevity Fund donated. Dr. Deb Grant donated school supplies. Lynn Rubsey donated school supplies. Bruce Thomas, Jennifer Fisher, Maria Judd, Giant Eagle of Streetsboro donated some supplies. Simplay donated their active play toys and products to Streetsboro Elementary. That was amounting to about $2,700. The Knights of Columbus of Streetsboro donated, and the Society of Broadcast Engineers donated to WSTB. Just a lot of community outreach, and I just want to say thank you to all of them. And that's, if I don't hear any other comments, please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to separate superintendent's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Violi. I have one, item A. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the organizational structure of the Streetsboro City School District.
I'll second.
First and a second, any comments?
Board, just quickly, you can click on that link to look at it, but this is obviously what we implemented a year ago. We had to make some tweaks to the organizational chart, but this is the formal chart that will go into board policy.
I have a question. I might be blind, but I don't see student services coordinator on the org chart.
That's the assistant superintendent. Are you talking about the new position that Dr. Grant is filling?
Correct.
It's not on there, because it's a temporary position.
Understood. That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
You had me confused for a second. I thought you were referring to assistant
I was
superintendent.
either blind or
Beavers.
confused. That's the story of my life, one or the other.
No, that was a good catch, though. That's why, because it's really a temporary position. If it were to become a permanent year to
Then
year,
you would
they
add
would
it
have
to
to
the
add
org
it.
chart.
And that would actually then go under assistant superintendent, director of student services.
That's what I assumed. Okay, thank you.
Good catch, though.
Correct.
Okay, moving on to treasurers.
Oh,
I'm sorry, please call the roll.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Motion carried. That concludes your report or your recommendations. Moving on to treasurer's recommendations.
Thank you. I have two items for your consideration. Item A, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract between the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio and the Streetsboro City School District in the amount of $394,173.60 for services provided for fiscal year 22-23.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
Item B, it is recommended by the Treasurer that the Board of Education approve permanent appropriations for fiscal year 23, and estimated resources will be adjusted as needed.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
This is just standard procedure. Permanent appropriations are due by October 1st. It's just an Ohio Revised Code thing. So the Assistant Treasurer, Linda Shearcourt, and I get together monthly to go over that fund information. And this is just part of the standard procedure. You'll typically only see temporary appropriations, but it is in September for the October 1st deadline that you'll see permanent appropriations.
Excellent. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to Chief Business Officer's recommendations.
Thank you. I have several. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract and resolution using the Ohio School Council's design and build HVAC solution with Gardner for Streetsboro High School for up to $23,000 using the 034 Classroom Facilities Fund.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any further comments?
Not unless you have more questions on shared services, Mr. Violi.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Recommendation number 2, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract and resolution using the Ohio Schools Council design and build HVAC solution with Gardner for Streetsboro Elementary School for up to $28,000 using the 034 Classroom Facilities Fund.
I'll move.
I'll second. We have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Recommendation number 3, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract and resolution using the Ohio Schools Council design and build HVAC solution with Gardner for Streetsboro Middle School for up to $7,000 using the 034 Classrooms Facilities Fund.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Recommendation number 4, and my final recommendation of the evening. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the attached building rental rates for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion carried.
That concludes my recommendations. Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Mr. Scarsapino. Moving on to number 8, new business. Hearing none. Old business, I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
We already talked about it
Yep, today.
today.
Moving on to Board President's recommendations, executive session. It is recommended the Board of Education enter into executive session to consider the employment with respect to a public employee or official, to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and to consider details relative to security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or public office, if disclosure of the matters discussed could be reasonably be expected to jeopardize the security of the public body or public office, with possible actions to follow.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford? Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes. Motion carried. We are in executive session at 6:49.